Okay, we will call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum for the Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee regular meeting. For the agenda, do I just go to the first item on the agenda?
Yes. Yeah, there are no public comments for this, and so you can do the consent agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda. All right, so then is that on page 4 of the SIF packet?
It should just be page 2.
Yeah, it should be page 2.
Page 2. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay. So call to order and announce a quorum. Okay. Comments will be taken. You said there's no comments, so we'll skip that. So there's one item on the consent agenda, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee minutes from August 12th, regular session.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay.
So I'll run through this. Let's see. Committee member Leonard.
Yes.
Committee member Tryon.
Aye.
Committee member Meyer.
Aye.
And committee member Timmerman.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so we move on to the regular agenda. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on the 2020 Community Impact Fee land use assumptions.
Yes, so if you look in your packets on page 10, the only change from the previous meeting was down there over by Bell Farms. We changed remember it was multifamily, we changed it to SF3, which is single family, to basically match what was already there out at Bell Farms and some of the other adjacent properties. Nothing else has changed, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't approve it. Does anybody have any questions about it?
Thank you for changing that. I do
Oh,
not have
no.
any questions.
No problem. So if there are any questions, and if everybody's okay with it, I guess y'all can make a motion to approve the land use map.
Yes. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the land use map.
I'll second.
Okay. Committee member Leonard.
Yes.
Committee member Tryon.
Yes.
Committee member Meyer.
Yes.
And committee member Timmerman.
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item number 3. So consideration, discussion, and possible action on the possible water source options. This is a carryover from the last time as well.
Okay, so as previously discussed, the city is going to need additional water by either late 2022 or early 2023. And basically at max build out within the next 10 years, the city was going to need 2 million gallons of water per day to meet the estimated demand. And so we had been looking into the various sources, and basically what has come down to is the city of Austin would be too expensive, but that's going to stay on the table through an existing agreement for emergency use. If something happens, then that would be a backup. EPCOR, they are going to, it's the cheapest option, And basically, the MUDs have decided that they're going to pursue an agreement with EPCOR, and they're not going to have the city take them over at this time. They're not going to go with Gatehouse. So basically, because the MUDs made that decision, there's going to be a new line that's going to run to the MUD, like the MUD storage tanks and everything. But that could also be, there'll be a way for them to interconnect with Mainer in case something happens to the line that goes to Mainer right now currently from EPCOR. And so basically at this point, because of the decisions by the MUDs, the most economically feasible option is to do a contract modification and get the additional capacity from EPCOR. You know, we had discussed the city of Mainer wells and water plant construction, but that's not feasible since the city would have to basically come up with all the money themselves, and it would just make the impact fees so high nobody would want to build anything in Mainer. So, and then basically since the MUDs decided not to go with Gatehouse, it would be too expensive for them to try to extend water to Mainer, and so the costs would basically be almost as much as what the city of Austin would charge per gallon, which is $5.09 right now per 1,000 gallons. So I guess, are there any questions about those options? I mean, I guess we're kind of like the decision was kind of made for us.
Right.
But
yeah, I do have one question. So, and thank you for following up with the MUDs on that, because I know that was like the main thing I was kind of waiting to see, like what they were gonna say. So it sounds like were they asked about contributing to a city fund, the fourth option, I think it was, because I know we were going to reach out to them about were they interested in going in on us building our own.
From my understanding, but I wasn't at the meetings, they decided that the best possible movement for them right now, currently, like cost-wise, was to do EPCOR as well, because it is cheaper source. They won't have to put in as much fiscal, because that's the main thing, is the cost of the plants, because we were talking like tens of millions of dollars for the wells and the plants. And so and that might be something in the future. I mean, the MUD's main concern was they wanted to get a new supplier for water, and they didn't want to wait around too long, because it would take a while to get everything approved by TCEQ and then built and everything, and it wasn't worth the cost right now for them. So when we come back and do this in 5 years, that might be a more viable option then, depending on where the MUDs are at then. So, and I mean, if something changes, we can always come back. You can do it before 5 years is up if you have to. If you need to make changes like that, you can do it. So if something does happen like that, then we could look at making modifications.
Thanks. That's helpful.
Cool. And this was just a discussion item, so there doesn't need to be any action on it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I saw at the end it said recommend. So I don't know if we needed a motion on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're all
just
kind
discuss
of
it.
with the EPCOR makes sense.
Yeah, it makes the most sense where everything is at this point in time.
Right.
Like I said, in the future, we can always come back and look at the other options again. But
Okay.
the EPCOR deal, I think it's going to be for at least 10 years, if not longer, too. But that doesn't say the city can't go out and get another water source like 3 or 4 years down the road if they want. So there's nothing to keep the city from doing that. So.
Okay. Is there any other questions for Pauline before we move on?
believe so.
No? Okay. All right, next agenda item is number 4, consideration, discussion, and possible action to generate a, oh, I lost it, capital improvements plan for, sorry, I lost my page. Capital improvements plan for the 2020 community impact fee. So this one, I believe, is to talk about the plan. Scott?
Yes. So if you look
Or,
on,
yeah, Pauline.
yeah, on page 14, it kind of shows basically the rough estimates about when the water supply is going to be needed and stuff. And that's just to kind of show you how the blue line is how the water requirements are going to grow. So, and then if you go to page 15, then it actually shows the different projects that are proposed to be constructed with the impact fees that the city collects. And so there's various projects. And then if you go to the following page, that actually lists the projects that are proposed, and it has like an estimated timeline as to when those are going to be required. For the most part, water, everything is needed within this year or next year for the most part. So, and some of the items have been constructed. There was the water CIP 1 was constructed this year and has been completed. But that stays on because the impact fees can still go towards the cost of that project. Basically, the cost is estimated based on what percentage of the LUEs for that line are being used. And right now, there aren't that many tying into that line yet. So that'll be adjusted. And then, like I said, most of the other items are 2020, or there's some in 2025. And like I said, if those are needed before then we can come back and update it. So if y'all want to, I don't know if y'all looked over any, if you have any questions about any of the proposed projects.
Yeah, I do have just quick 2 questions. So for the projects list, you said that those needed to be done this year, right? Basically the fiscal year 2020 to 2021. Is that because of like a budget? Like you need to spend the money before the year's over, or is that because the pipes are in desperate need of?
The ones that are proposed for 2020 and 2021 are primarily in areas that either don't have water lines, and the city's extending service out to those, like towards Old Kimbrough Road where Manor Heights is. There's no water out there, and the city's extending the water. And you'll see wastewater too out there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's basically to increase capacity and to extend into areas that currently don't have service. Yeah, because all the water lines that are proposed, all the water is to extend service to areas that don't have service right now. And I believe that's the same for most of the wastewater projects too, except there is one that's needed for both because there's a current issue with the wastewater, and that there's a new project that's proposing to tie into it. So.
Okay. And then my other question was, in the graphs, like on page 14 and then page 17, so the blue is the projected usage and the black is the capacity?
Yes.
Okay. So on a graph like this, what does it mean when those 2 lines come together? Is that put us in the risk area?
Yeah, so that's why they're in for the water in 2022, You know, it's between 22 and 23 is when they intersect. And basically there is when the city is going to be fairly close to exceeding the capacity of the current supply. And so that's why we have to work out some of these deals with like EPCOR and stuff now, so that when the need arises, the city's got stuff lined up. So if they need to do it, everything's ready to go.
Okay. So this is just a conservative projection and you're
Yeah, I
hoping that
mean,
due to the
yeah,
water
we're
capacity that
estimating
works.
what the growth's going to be. Growth could slow down or it could pick up, you know, so it's just an estimate.
That looks
And
about
that's
right.
why, yeah, and that's why you do it every 5 years. And it's a 10-year plan, but you do it every 5 years because, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, you
Right.
know, with all this COVID-19 once everything's over. You know, I mean, it hasn't really seemed to slow anything down, but
Yeah,
you never know. So,
true.
so we're pretty conservative, and you know, hopefully the city can maybe go past the 2022, 2023, but just to be on the safe side, we're like, well, we need to go ahead and make the plan now to make sure we've got something in place. So when the need arises, the city doesn't have to scramble to find a water source.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
And then it's the same for the wastewater. Yeah, so basically when it crosses the lines, there's one for the new Cottonwood plant that is not under construction yet. I believe it's going out for bids in the next month or so. And then Wilbarger, there'll be another expansion required, but
True.
you know, and like it looks like mid 2023. You know, so but that's it. You know, basically when then we were like, okay, well we have to do the expansion to the full permit, which is the 2 million gallons per day. And it's the same like Cottonwood, and it may be sooner than, you know, we because there's no wastewater out there where the Cottonwood plant is, because that's for Manor Heights. So once that plant goes online, there might be a lot more growth in that area and part of town. So.
Sure. Did anyone else have any questions around this item?
Has the list changed at all, or is it the same as it has?
The wastewater hasn't changed at all. The only thing we did was we did update some of the years, just based on what's being proposed right now that we know about. The only thing that changed was, if y'all remember back, and I think it was last December when we met to add that, what was it, S32 for the Bastrop Parsons wastewater improvements. But basically, because there's already a issue there, and then there's a multifamily that's proposing to tie in to that line. And so their impact fees are going to help fund that. And we added that to the CIP, but nothing else has been changed, just the dates. And we did, we updated the dates for the Bell Farms lift station expansion has to happen earlier, and the Presidential Glen lift station expansion. Yeah, basically all three of the CIPs 1, 2, and 3 for the lift stations, due to growth, they're all going to have to be done next year. So.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? It looks like we do need to make a motion. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the what you're going to do, if you approve it, then the land use map and the CIP projects will go before city council for public comment. So.
Okay. Did anyone have any more questions or want to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the 2020 community impact fee.
I'll second it. Sorry.
All right. Committee member Leonard,
Yes.
Committee member Tryon,
Yes.
Committee Member Meyer
Yes.
and Committee Member Timmerman.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
All right. So agenda item number 5, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a 2020 community impact fee. So Pauline.
Okay, so basically what we do is we came up with a cost, and what the cost will be with, like, you know, if it has like financing and it's usually over 20 years with like bonds or however. So we came up with a cost for each project for water and each project for wastewater. And then basically we do a pro rata share. Basically what that is like if you look for water on exhibit B2, you know, Blake Maynard Road water line. That's the one that was just installed. And the total capacity is for 1,667 connections, but we estimate that only 763 will be used in 10 years. So basically we do a pro rata share, and that's what the cost is. And we take all those costs and we add them up, and then we divide them by the total number of LUEs that we believe that are going to be added over the next 10 years. So we take it as like $15 million in cost. We divided it by 5,782 LUEs. So the maximum water impact fee would be $2,653. And typically cities give 50% credit on that. So the maximum fee that we would present to city council would be $1,326.50. Which is less than the one from 2017, which was 1,560. And so basically, since the committee is okay with the projects, the committee just needed to decide, okay, do we want to send the 1,326.50 to the council? Is everybody comfortable with that? And that's what needs to be decided for water and then wastewater.
I have a question, just easy. Did any of the LUE factors change? Or are those also the same? Like for the LUEs for like meter sizes and all that? Those are like the same as we have now, right?
Yeah, I didn't change any of the factors. The only thing that changed from when we did it back in 2016 and 17 was, I think back then multifamily was at 0.7 LUEs and now it's 0.5. I didn't change any of the other factors on there because those seem to be working. And so there was no reason to change any of that for like the meter sizes or anything.
Okay, cool, thanks.
So the same process was done for wastewater, and the wastewater fee, impact fee, is going up because there are new wastewater projects that are required. And primarily because there's 2 wastewater plants, and those are pretty expensive. So the maximum accessible fee would be $4,047 for wastewater, and the current one is $3,200. So it's about $850 increase. But you know, the Wilbarger Creek is currently under construction, and then there's a Conwood Creek plant that has to be constructed, and there's several wastewater line improvements that are needed to extend service. And I don't know if I included it or not. Nope. I meant to include it. There is, let's see if I can pull it up real quick. I have a spreadsheet on my, I thought I'd sent to Scott, that basically compares the CIP amounts with other cities. And of course, my computer is not going to let me pull it up.
And the only people who pay these fees are businesses, correct?
It's any new development, and so when home builders apply, so
Mhm.
Pacesetter, Starlight, Ashton Woods, whoever, when they apply for their building permit, they'll be assessed the fee. It's based off when your lots are platted though, and so if their lots are already on the ground, they stay with their fee at the time that they were platted. And
Grandfather,
so
yeah,
if these
makes sense.
fees change or when these fees change, it'll be only after people plat new sections.
Scott, is that, it's after final plats are approved, is that right? It's not preliminary plats?
Right, yeah, it's based on when it's recorded with the county. Yeah.
Recorded, okay.
Okay, so,
Yeah, and then the net change, like right now, with the current fees together, it's $4,760, and the new fees that are proposed, it's $5,373.50. And so the net change, it increases together $613.50. And like Pauline said, that's all.
yeah, and so like, I have my spreadsheet. I apologize. I thought I sent it to Scott. So like Bastrop, their total fees for impact fees is roughly $6,800. Georgetown is about $9,500. Pflugerville is about 7,000. But they're proposing, Pflugerville's doing a lot of work. So currently it's that, but they're proposing to have about $15,000 in impact fees because of all the projects that they need to do. So, and Round Rock is 6,100. So, I mean, I'm trying to, I thought I had Leander. Oh, Leander is basically 7,100. So, I mean,
below.
it's,
Do you know what Elgin is?
I don't think, I tried to contact them and they would not give me, oh, wait, here, Elgin is 3,800. About 6,100. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so ours would be 5373.
Yeah, so I mean, compared to other cities, it definitely is. Maynard's right up there. You're definitely not more expensive than other cities. So I don't think it's too outrageous with what needs to be done to charge that. I mean, I guess we can get Barth's perspective as a developer.
Yeah, from what you're reading out, it seems reasonable to me. I mean, it seems like it's in line with the other communities. And you said it's the maximum that can be charged given the current.
Yeah, with the items that are listed for the CIP projects, and then typically we recommend 50% of what the overall fee comes to, and that's what we're recommending.
It's reasonable to me from a developer perspective. It seems like it doesn't hinder the marketability of Maynard, and it's still capturing a reasonable amount of the fee for Maynard. It seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think the state says that we can only assess 50%, right?
Yeah, I think it comes from the state. There's a reason you can only do 50%. Now, I mean, what the committee does is we'll make the recommendation, but then city council can be like, oh, we think that's too high, and they can adjust it lower if they want to.
Mm.
So,
have they ever done that?
Not since I've done it. I'm not sure if they've done it in the past. I mean, they can always do it. By the time this goes before council for approval, I think there'll be possibly some new city council member. So,
right.
So you never know. I mean, typically we haven't had issues, but that doesn't mean you can't have them. It all depends on who's on the city council.
Mm-hmm.
But as a committee, we did our job. We make our recommendation. Then there's nothing we can do after that. It's whatever the city council decides. They could have a bunch of developers come talk and say, "Oh, that's too high," And then, but basically, all the committee needs to do is like, okay, yes, we're okay with what we're proposing, and we just propose that to council, and then they'll take it from there.
Okay. Are there any other questions or make a motion? I think
Well, I'll
Cecil.
make a.
Oh, sorry.
Are you going to Cecil?
Yeah, he was on mute. I couldn't tell if he was
Yeah, he's
talking.
muted.
Okay.
I was
Yes,
like,
I-
did my computer lock up? It's real quiet.
Yes,
I saw your
I was-
lips.
I was making a motion that we accept the impact fees as shown.
Second.
All right. Committee member Leonard,
Yes.
committee member Tryon,
Yes.
committee member Meyer,
Yes,
and committee member Timmerman.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so the last agenda item, number 6, consideration, discussion, and possible action on amended community impact fee advisory committee calendar.
So this
So,
one, so sorry to interrupt you. Since we were able to get through the impact fee and everything and make that recommendation, this should be our last meeting, so we don't have to amend the calendar. This was just on there just in case we didn't get through everything. We could
got
have
it.
added a meeting in October, but we finished, so.
Yay.
Yeah.
we-
So basically, the next steps are the city council will do a resolution setting the public hearing for the land use map and the CIPs at the council meeting next week. And then in November 4th, they'll go over and they'll do the public hearing. And then they'll set a resolution to discuss, have a public hearing for the impact fees that'll take place in December. And then after that, so yeah, basically,
I was gonna
Molly-
ask, is the calendar, sorry, I was double checking it. You had added on there for September 16th is when the land use assumptions and the impact projects go to council. Is that, so we still have to do the calendar then to approve, to have that September 16th date on there?
I don't think so. Because basically all it is I'm just gonna take anything that says draft off and then basically it just yeah, I don't think it needs to be changed because basically all I'm doing is taking the information that was approved tonight and putting it with the resolution to present to city council next week. So
Okay, cool.
so I don't see any reason to have to change anything on that. So
That
Great.
works for me.
and so the only other item which would be that we have a typical memo that we submit to council that the chairperson has to sign. So we'll just have to get that done, but that doesn't need to be done at this point. So that's all I have.
All right, so I guess we can move to adjourn.
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Committee member Leonard,
Yes.
committee member Tryon,
Yes.
committee member Meyer,
yes.
and committee member Timmerman.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. And
Thank you.
y'all
Thank
for
you,
planning.
Pauline, for
Oh, no
Thank you,
problem.
Pauline.
it was a lot of work this time, so you did.
Yes. Yeah, I think stuff gets more complicated as the city keeps growing.